rainy November evening in 1971, a man dressed in a black suit and sunglasses boarded a plane. He ordered a bourbon and soda, handed a note to a flight attendant, and calmly told her he had a bomb. Hours later, with $200,000 in cash strapped to his chest, he parachuted into the freezing darkness, never to be seen again. No body, no confirmed identity, and not a single person arrested in over 50 years. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, the skyjacker who vanished into thin air. Let's take a deep dive into the 4 most likely suspects who may have pulled off the most legendary unsolved heist in American history. The D.B. Cooper hijacking isn't just a mystery, it's a phenomenon.
The legendary D.B. Cooper skyjacking case.
D.B. Cooper.
D.B.
Cooper.
D.B. Cooper.
I'm talking about the hunt for the true identity of D.B. Cooper.
In the 5 decades since that fateful flight, over 1,000 suspects have been investigated, and nearly all of them ruled out. But 4 names still remain, suspects with motive, means, and eerie similarities to the hijacker. Let's break them down, one by one. Our first suspect didn't just act like D.B. Cooper. He was Cooper, at least according to some. Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. was a Vietnam veteran, helicopter pilot, and former Green Beret. Just 5 months after the D.B. Cooper hijacking, McCoy pulled off a near-identical stunt. He hijacked a plane in Utah, demanded $500,000, then parachuted out mid-air. He even used the same trick, handing a note to the flight attendant, claiming he had a bomb. McCoy was eventually caught and sentenced to 45 years, but he escaped prison and was later killed in a shootout with the FBI. Inside his home, they found handwritten hijacking plans, a parachute, and disguises. Still, FBI experts say McCoy didn't match the physical description. Cooper had brown eyes, McCoy had light eyes, and McCoy was only 29. Cooper was described as mid-40s. But some believe McCoy staged his second hijacking on purpose, to throw them off the scent of the first. Despite the FBI's skepticism, the case for Richard McCoy Jr. became even more interesting in 2020, when his own children, Shantae and Rick McCoy III, publicly claimed their father was the infamous fugitive. In fact, they even produced some potentially new evidence that forced the FBI to quietly reopen the case they proclaimed was closed in 2016 due to lack of evidence. According to Rick, the piece of evidence he supplied to the FBI was one of his father's old parachutes that he found in a storage shed on his grandma's property. The FBI hasn't authenticated it yet, but I've given them possession of it, said Rick of the parachute. For years, the McCoy family refused to cooperate with authorities or supply DNA or any other evidence to assist in the FBI's investigation. However, Rick says his family's stance changed after the death of his mother, Karen McCoy, in December 2020. And this is where things take a shocking turn. According to her children, Karen was allegedly an accomplice to McCoy's April 1972 skyjacking. In fact, they claim their mum also confessed numerous times to helping McCoy plan the Cooper hijacking 5 months earlier in November 1971. even going as far as saying that she drove him to the airport on the day of the heist. Currently, the parachute remains in possession of the FBI, and they have not released any new statements on the authenticity of the parachute. To this date, McCoy remains one of the few prominent Cooper suspects not to have been officially eliminated by DNA, which begs the question: could Richard McCoy really be D.B. Cooper? If Cooper was a skilled paratrooper, Ted Braden fits the bill. A highly trained Army Special Forces operative, Braden was a legend among halo jumpers, high-altitude, low-opening missions. He fought in Vietnam, ran covert operations, and had a history of going rogue. After deserting the military, he was caught and re-enlisted under suspicious circumstances. Braden also had a criminal record and was rumored to have ties to black market activities. His physical appearance: a close match, same height, same build, same demeanor, and he was known to carry out risky, high-stakes operations with nerves of steel. There's no direct evidence tying Braden to the hijacking, but many believe he had the skills, the motive, and the guts to pull it off. But if there's no direct evidence to implicate Ted Braden, why does he keep coming up as a potential D.B. Cooper suspect? His criminal life began in the 1970s when he was investigated by the FBI for stealing $250,000 during a trucking scam he had allegedly devised. He was never charged for this supposed crime. Braden was then indicted by a federal grand jury for driving an 18-wheeler full of stolen goods in 1980. 2 years later, he'd be arrested for driving a stolen vehicle on fake plates. Braden's military career was also filled with mystery and intrigue. He was highly intelligent, highly skilled, and part of the Special Operations Group during the Vietnam War. D.B. Cooper was long thought to have had a military background, and this particular skyjacking had many similarities to a Special Operations Group mission. This includes the intricate planning, equipment used, and near-flawless execution. But despite all these similarities between Braden and Cooper, there is simply no evidence tying him to the crime outside of his physical characteristics, skill set, and military background. Unfortunately, Braden died in 2007, which virtually eliminated any possibility of officially tying him to the Cooper hijacking. Next is Robert Rackstraw, Army paratrooper, helicopter pilot, explosives expert, and alleged CIA asset. If this case was fiction, Rackstraw would be the perfect villain. He faked his own death, used fake IDs, and was arrested multiple times.
In your assessment, could Robert Rackstraw be D.B. Cooper?
There's a strong possibility that he is.
Rackstraw had the training and left the military just months before D.B. Cooper hijacked the Boeing 727.
In 2018, independent investigator Tom Colbert and his team uncovered what he believed to be coded messages in FBI files. Codes they claim only Rackstraw, with his military training, could have written. To help decipher the messages, he enlisted the help of former Army veteran Rick Sherwood, who worked with codes during the Vietnam War.
I think I know who did this.
Description on one wire service, master criminal.
He was Robert Rackstraw. He was one of your pilots.
He also bore a striking resemblance to the D.B. Cooper composite sketch. And when asked directly if he was Cooper, He never actually denied it.
Robert Rackstraw, a retired pilot in California, has been questioned before in this documentary.
If you're D.B. Cooper, the world would want to know your story.
I would. So would the FBI and the secret indictment.
He was questioned by investigators in 1978, and he gave 3 different alibis, all proven to be false. The FBI ultimately ruled him out, though they never explained why. And the lead investigator on the private team insisted he fits every detail, every skill, every clue.
Using the alphabet code where each letter gets a numerical value. A is 1, B is 2, and so on.
This was what was used on letter 5, which broke everything open.
In Cooper's letter number 5, Sherwood noted at the bottom,
The 7 CCs on top added up to 21.
he deciphered that to be ASA, Army Security Agency, their intelligence branch. He'd find 371st, 11th GS.
Where our choppers flew out of in Vietnam.
And then there's letter number 6. Sherwood noted Cooper's, and please tell the lackey cops D.B. Cooper is not my real name.
Then he used the terminology of lackey. I said, there's something here. Said that could be his name.
And please tell the lackey cops equals 269. Sherwood racked his mind for an equivalent. I'm Lieutenant Robert W. Rackstraw, also equals 269.
Game, set, match.
Rackstraw is D.B. Cooper.
Yeah,
You sure?
I'm sure.
Whether you believe the codes or not, one thing's for sure. Robert Rackstraw had the resume and the mystery to make him a serious suspect. Our final suspect, William Joe Lakich, isn't a name you'll hear on most D.B. Cooper lists, but maybe you should. Lakich was a decorated World War II veteran, Bronze Star, mission planner. After the war, he settled in Nashville and worked as a production supervisor at a factory called Nashville Electronics, a company that made capacitors using extremely pure titanium. In 2011, lab tests revealed that the tie Cooper left behind contained rare titanium particles, particles only found in highly specialized electronics manufacturing at the time. A patent from Lakich's factory shows the exact form of titanium found on that tie, meaning the man who wore it likely worked somewhere just like Nashville Electronics. But it's not just the science that makes Lakich a suspect. It's the grudge.
I realized, something tragic had happened to this man, and his grudge was really his motivation, not the money.
2 months before the D.B. Cooper skyjacking, Lakich's daughter, Susan Giff, was killed in a hostage standoff gone horribly wrong. Her ex-husband hijacked a plane in Nashville, forcing it to land for fuel in Florida. When the FBI moved in, they shot out the plane's tires. Moments later, the hijacker murdered the pilot, then Susan, then himself. Lakich was devastated and furious. He publicly blamed the FBI for what happened, even going so far as to file a lawsuit against J. Edgar Hoover's agency.
People thought that the FBI had really messed this thing up.
A family friend remembers Lakich saying the FBI had blood on its hands, and according to some researchers, including author Bill Rollins, this was his motive. A man broken by loss, enraged at federal agents, and working in a facility tied directly to the physical evidence left behind. Even Cooper's own words to the flight attendant add weight. "I don't have a grudge against your airline," he said. "I have a grudge." Some believe that grudge was personal, not about money, but revenge.
This guy lines up, and like I said, it's not only possible, probable that this is DB.
But if you're not convinced that Lakich should be a suspect just yet, wait until you hear this. Lakich served in Germany during wartime, the same era when a European comic book character named Dan Cooper was popular. The FBI believes the hijacker took his alias from that comic. Being in Germany at this time, many believe that there is a high possibility that Lakich was very familiar with this particular comic book, while skeptics point out that his military records don't show jump school. Others argue he didn't need it.
This is a man who has an extreme grudge and really has resigned himself to the fact that he may live or he may die, but either way, it's a win-win situation.
If Lakich was Cooper, he not only got away with it, he also took the secret and the truth to his grave. Four men, all with military backgrounds, all with motive, skill, and just enough mystery. So who was it? McCoy, the copycat with something to hide? Braden, the ghost of covert ops? Rackstraw, the walking mystery novel? Or Lakich, who had a public grudge against the FBI and whose work left trace metals on a discarded tie? The FBI has remained fairly silent.
We would love to have solved this, and it doesn't feel good to acknowledge that this is the only unsolved skyjacking in American history.
But the public never stops digging. And with new DNA technologies, private investigators are still testing family members and tie particles to this day. The only thing we know for sure is one of these four men might have pulled off the greatest vanishing act in American history. What do you think? Drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more twisted tales. Until next time, stay curious